TAQ Capital. Technical analysis quickly.
This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. Before taking any action based on the information provided on this channel, it is recommended that you seek the advice of a professional licensed financial advisor.
Let's do this.
All right, welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're going to get right into this Bitcoin video, and if you've been paying attention at all to what's been going on today, you'll know that it's a very big day for Bitcoin. As I zoom into this area right here, you'll see that we've finally broken this downward narrowing wedge that we've been in since the peak of the market up here. And yesterday we hit the line, and today we actually broke through it. As it was unfolding, I wasn't sure if we were going to bounce, but then once we started to poke out of this, that's when I knew that there's a good chance we're just going to blow through it. So the question becomes, I guess, a couple of them. One, is the bottom in? And two, where do we go from here, at least in the short to midterm, if the bottom is not in? Well, regardless, whether the bottom's in or not, everyone wants to know where we're going in the short term too, because from a day trading standpoint, that's what we do. Well, currently, once we hit the June 18th channel up here, this started what appears to be a red wedge. Now, this is premature. This top line here is premature because we don't have a second point to plot a line. But there's a distinct possibility that because this is pointing up and this is pointing up, we know if this is a wedge, we're going to be breaking down. So possibly what we're going to be doing is some sideways action. Well, I can hardly call sideways action, I suppose. It's going to be some bullish action, because if you look at, if we go up to the top red line, we'll be looking at getting close to $30,000. So that's a 53% run from where we're at right now. And where I'm getting that $30,000 mark from is right here. If we run the Fibonacci tool from the bottom of this here to the top of it here, this is telling us where the next target is going to be. And that's 29,929. So 30,000 basically. And usually we'll overshoot it by a little bit. So we could have a massive run up here over the days and possibly a couple of weeks to come. It's kind of hard to imagine with the massive run that we've already had. I mean, what does this look like? If I bring in the Bollinger Band and the Ichimoku Cloud, more so the cloud. In fact, let me shut off the band. This is on the daily, and you can see that the green Tenkin is kind of closing the mouth up to the red Kijin. And as we jump up into other time frames, you can see that, like on the 2-day, it's just hooked the candle. The 3-day, it's acting as a blocker. So I think it's going to unfold into the cloud, which will then take off. But I mean, even if you're looking at lower time frames, like, yeah, I mean, we're obviously in a little bit of a pullback right now. I think we're going to probably come down, bounce off the blue line, and then take off again, because that's where the Kijin here is here on the 3-hour. If we jump up to the 4-hour, similar. 5-hour, similar. So you're going to start to see the Tenkin stand up as it pulls the candles down towards the Kijin here, about 19,679. And then we'll take back off again. This is my ring chart here. And if you're unfamiliar with the rings, I'll just zoom out really quickly so you can see what I'm talking about. When they're all going, it looks insane. Like you've got the yellow rings, the blue ring, the green ring, the orange ring right here that's kind of flat like a pancake. But if you start to shut them off, you'll see things like this, which shows that when we break through the ring, it ran down it, bounced back and forth between the rings here and so on. So we just busted out of this white ring and came down. But more importantly, we just came up on this yellow ring. So let me zoom in. Similar to what happened back here, we hit that ring and we ran right up it. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 candles of running up, and then it started to come down right before it hit the line at the top. And we've come up 2 candles, and we're just starting to break down. Now, I'm not saying we're going to run up this entire thing. But there's a good chance that we'll wick below it here and then possibly continue up. So that's going to take us, quite a substantial distance. It's also possible that we bust through and then run up the backside of it. That does happen too. But I said when we come up on this ring, you're going to start to see some bullish activity, and that's exactly what played out. For those of you that have been watching the channel, you know that I've been talking about this yellow symmetrical wedge for a while. And as soon as we hit here, we just exploded up out of the blue wedge we've been in since the peak of the market, as well as the top of the yellow symmetrical wedge. And I said that, well, once we break through, we'll probably have a pullback, and then we're going to continue to go up. Because right now, we are in this teal wedge that started here, bouncing off the bottom of the dashed red wedge, which is that big one I showed you over here, right there. I was also talking about this red wedge where we had the first hit over here, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and a swoop down and up. Now, it was a super long swoop, but happens all the time. So we broke out the peak there, so now I've got to raise this up there. So now, same scenario, hit, we're going to do a swoop down. Again, I think it's going to be probably somewhere in here, much smaller swoop, and then break up, we'll end the green wedge. Then we'll go up to make a connection with the teal wedge, which would complete our 1, 2, 3, and then 4 up in here. Then we've got to break down out of this. And this 4, well, it should be based on the Fibonacci retracement tool. That did not take. Let's try that again. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to go back here and do this. 21,140. So that means that if we do this swoop down here like this and we break up and out and we come up to somewhere in this vicinity, we could overshoot it and it could come higher up. That will be when we start to retrace back down. We might only barely poke out, reshape the wedge, and then go back up for another one. So I'll know more as that unfolds. But my point is that we still look like we're continuing up much further. However, that does not answer the question if the bottom is already in. And the reason why I'm still convinced that it's not has mostly to do with the 10-year yield and how it compares to the S&P. If you see this line down here, let me make it bolder. You can see that, well, I guess first off, you can see that these charts are inversely correlated. So when the blue is going down, the orange is going up. And the blue is the 10-year yield. And this has just hit the same purple line that causes the redirection. Now, this wasn't quite a hit, and we had a redirection. And look at that. As soon as we took off, the S&P started to dump. So we haven't taken off yet. We're technically pretty into it. Even more so than back here, I think. More so than back here. So I think soon this is going to take off based on precedent, and this is going to come crashing down. And when it comes crashing down, Bitcoin will come crashing down too. We also corrected 84% off of the last bull run, and we haven't come close to that yet. So 84% would take us down to the $10,000 mark. So if we came up here like this, and then we came crashing back down and out of the wedge, it's possible that the momentum will just take us even lower. Now, technically, out of a wedge like this, we shouldn't be breaking down lower than the entry point over here. So, it might tie the new low. It shouldn't go much lower. But I found that type of wedge trading has not really worked out well for me. So it's really going to come down to the 10-year yield for me. There's also another person I follow on YouTube called Optical Art Crypto, and he's got this chart, which is very convincing. Again, credit to Optical Art Crypto on this one. So I definitely recommend going and subscribing to him over there. But you can see that these red lines here are parallel with one another. And when we broke through on the bull run here, we came down bouncing off of it. And once we hit the bottom here, that's when we took off. Again, bouncing, 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 and we took off. So now we've come through bounce, and we haven't had another bounce yet. So if this comes down and hits down in here, you're talking, the $7,000 range. And then at that point, it should take off. Plus, I'm convinced that there has to be a massive dump in the stock market coming. The dollar is being propped up. There's no way it should be as high as it is. It's even started to turn around. This is on the monthly chart, but we peaked right up here, and now it's starting to come down, and you can see that the Kijin has dog-eared, and the Tenkan is sticking way up above it, kind of creating this space, this mouth right here to pull the candle back down. Now, it's on the monthly, so I'm not sure how quick this is going to move, but you can see, too, that if we zoom out, we're in this white wedge. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then this would have been 4 at one point. Then this replaced it, and then it did this swoop. So now this is 4. So with that in mind, I mean, could it swoop again and go even higher and then 4 is up here? Yeah, absolutely, it could. But for now, it's got to pull back. So no matter what, we're looking at a pullback. And then the question is, does it come down and tank down in here before it goes up even more, or will it kind of just do a little reset here before we go up? But just a little reset here could be enough to dump the markets. So in brief summation here, I think we got to pull back to right around 19,650, somewhere in here. Now, whether or not it pokes down sooner into the blue line here before it takes back off, I don't know, but I'm thinking it's going to head down to around that range. And that's based on, if I zoom out here to like the 7 hour and check out the Tenkan and the Kijin here at about 19,648. So right around this area. So as this continues to open and, as these candles continue to come down towards it, I think by the time they meet, it'll be somewhere right in here. And then it's got no reason to continue to come down because the spaces in the cloud are just not substantial. So it'll start to work its way down here. I think the Kijin will start to work its way up towards the Tenkan while the Tenkan continues to come straight, which at that point, you'll have something like this, whereas this is doing something like this. So that space is getting smaller. And then from there, it'll just take off. It's possible that's not the case. It's possible that we don't run up this ring, we break down through it here, and then once we break down through it, we just get a massive dump. And then this red wedge is not actually a wedge at all. And maybe it ends up being, just more of a continuation of the wedge that's up here, like this. In which case, this red wedge is not a wedge. And then this is the first point in whatever a downward wedge would look like out of here or something like that, where we head down towards, this lower range of, say, 10,000 before we break back up. I just don't see any signs of that. And believe me, I have been saying I think there's a dump coming. And I'm not convinced that the bottom is in. Based on precedent, it shouldn't be in, not just because of the 10-year yield and the S&P comparison, but because of the 84% reset we've done in the past. So I think at any point the bottom can go out. I just don't know how imminent it is. I mean, if this really has this massive momentum like we saw back here, I mean, this can cover a lot of ground quickly. Now, I understand to get all the way up here is a lot more ground to the $30,000 mark, which is actually here. So this is probably going to move to where that is the next point, and this would be dragging down more towards the $30,000 mark. So then, if we had a massive run up here, broke through, and then ran up some more, I mean, that is a huge, steep run. But, the dump might not take place until, middle of November, which is out here. So then we'll just kind of continue to do this. As we go up, we click it around the $30,000 mark, and then we come crashing back down, and something like this, down to the 10,000 or even lower, 6,000, somewhere in here. This would take us out to end of the year. So it would be just a dead Christmas. And then if it bounces off of, say, this ring right here, that's 10,000. And then we might run up the ring there, just like we did here, just like we're doing here. And then this breaks us through, and that's the end of it. And this was the bottom at the $10,000 mark. So all things to keep in mind. But short term, I think we're heading this way. But that's it for me today, guys. I appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe, as it helps the channel and get this video in front of more people like yourself. And I appreciate your patience with me not getting videos up as quickly as I'd like. It's just been pretty hectic on my end here. My apologies, and I really do hope that I can get back to doing things more regularly here. My life just kind of got out of control for a moment. But that's it for me. Have a great night. I will catch you in the next video. Good luck trading, and don't forget to use a stop loss.